Zoey 102 is a movie. Not a very good one, but a movie nonetheless. If you're watching this video, you're probably aware that Zoey 102 is a follow-up movie from the very popular Nickelodeon series Zoey 101, which aired from 2005 until 2008. The show was highly successful, and I personally enjoyed it as a kid. However, the question remains, did we really need a movie? Well, no, but it's 2023, and original ideas seem scarce these days. But before we dive into the movie and explore why it's so damn awful, there's an important issue surrounding the original series Zoey 101 that I'd like to address. If you want to skip right to the review, please fast forward to this timestamp. Former Disney star Alexa recently spoke out about her experiences on the Zoey 101 set, particularly regarding Jamie Lynn, who played Zoey. Alexa discussed her experiences with bullying on the set, and I think this clip will shed some light on the matter.
There was no interaction between her and I. She wouldn't even respond to me. She wouldn't even sit with us at lunch sometimes. I wasn't invited to go sit with them at lunch in her trailer. And it just started to snowball, basically. And then it became bullying, where she would just say harsh things, to me, like, why do you smile so much? Like this kid bully shit, basically. But at that time, it hurt.
These revelations from Alexa raise important concerns about the dynamics on the Zoey 101 set. Bullying and a toxic work environment can have severe impact on young actors, and it's crucial to acknowledge these issues. To be honest, it left me with a sour taste in my mouth going into Zoey 102. I believe almost everyone has experienced bullying at one point or another, and I fully support Alexa. I think it's only fair that I tear this movie apart on behalf of her. It's no surprise that Alexa is not part of the Zoey 102 movie, and I believe that's for the best. Now, with that important issue addressed, let's proceed with the review of Zoey 102. The movie begins with Zoey being proposed to by a guy on their second date. She obviously shuts this down and decides to leave. However, as she is leaving, these people who work at the restaurant come in with a cake and wine to congratulate what they believe is a newly engaged couple. Zoey gets surprised and turns around ever so slightly, causing this dude to push the cake into his face. Like, dude, she didn't even touch you. Talk about an overreaction. Same with the guy holding the ice bucket. If they wanted this shot in the movie, couldn't they at least make it like a little convincing? I know we are only 30 seconds into the movie and I'm already nitpicking. This is going to be fun. We then cut to an ad for the reality show Love Fully Charged, which is kind of like Too Hot to Handle. Zoey works on the show and helps the contestants with lines.
Because you're mysterious and beautiful.
Mainly for this guy named Jordan B, because he's a complete idiot. Now, I have a huge problem with this whole reality show storyline, mainly because I think it's a waste of time, but I'll get more into that later. Zoey is trying to get a promotion. The only problem is her boss is kind of a jackass who doesn't see her value. Zoey, feeling upset, gets a ride home with a colleague who is driving a self-driving car. The car is also important because it's a prize for the show Love Fully Charged. Anyway, the guy gives Zoey some advice and drops her off at home.
No, but seriously, just break the rules.
Zoey then gets a call from Quinn, who has sent her a brand new phone. Yay, I guess. Zoey tells Quinn she got proposed to. Remember this, it's important for later. And Quinn tells Zoey she is now engaged to Logan. Of course, Zoey is happy for her. However, she is reminded of how little time she spends with all her old friends. And now that she'll be going to the wedding, she'll be seeing them all. Zoey has a schizophrenic episode and reminisces to herself.
No one sees you anymore. I see people. Just because I haven't seen them in a while doesn't mean we aren't friends, right? I have a lot of friends. I see a lot of people.
She then online stalks her friends and finds out that they are all super successful and happy. We get a bit of a bombshell. Zoey and Chase are no longer on speaking terms, or at least he is no longer replying to her. Now, for some fans of the show, this might be a little jarring, as the last time we saw these characters, they were planning on spending the summer together in Hawaii, and it seemed all was well.
Hawaii? You and me all summer? Yes!
Sadly, for the sake of the movie, they had to take this sweet ending and turn it upside down. It turns out Zoey got cold feet and ditched Chase, causing this problem in their relationship. This is frustrating to me and a perfect example of why this movie shouldn't exist. Now, when fans go back and watch the original show, they can't enjoy the sweet ending anymore because they know what canonically happens. It makes Zoey seem like a bitch, and that's not what you want in a protagonist. Back on the reality show, Jordan B requests Zoey personally as he needs help with his lines. Zoey's boss then assigns him to be Jordan B's personal assistant, or babysitter more like. He also gives her a walkie-talkie device and tells her she needs to feed Jordan lines during the show's finale. But oh no, that's the same date as the wedding. What's Zoey going to do? Instead of acting like an adult and talking to Quinn about her dilemma, Zoey has apparently had no character development since high school, so she ends up lying instead. Seriously, not making the protagonist very likable here. Then we meet Logan's sister, whose name is Lyric. Seriously, that's the name they went with. And she is very kooky and funny, I guess. Did I mention this movie tries to be funny but the jokes don't really land a lot of the time? Zoey eavesdrops on some girls and ends up falling over. We then see another familiar face from the show, Stacy. And Zoey, for some unknown reason, decides to lie yet again.
I'm late, but I was at my boyfriend's house, lost track of time.
What's his name?
His name is, Hemsworth. Hugo Hemsworth.
Why is this movie making the character so unlikable? Aren't we meant to root for her? There's also a really interesting bit of dialogue in this scene that references Dustin, who was Zoey's younger brother in the show.
What is that little brother of yours up to?
Not so little anymore. He has 2 kids and twins on the way, if you can believe it.
This is just one of many former cast members who did not want to appear in the movie. This becomes clear when the formerly mentioned Stacy and her husband Mark are treated as close members of the friendship group in the film, while in the show they were more like side characters. I suppose this choice was made because they couldn't get enough of the main cast back for various reasons. Then Quinn comes in, and yeah, she looks great, I'm not gonna lie. She's aged extremely well. I wish I could say that for Zoey. Okay, maybe I'm being a little harsh here. Zoey doesn't look bad or anything. I guess in contrast to Quinn, it's a tough comparison, but to be honest, all of the cast look a lot older. And that makes sense, it's been 15 years since the show ended. My problem with this is that all the characters, for the most part, still act like they were in high school, but they look like they were in their 30s. I think this movie really struggled with an identity crisis. They have the occasional swear and drinking, but most of the conversations are juvenile. It's like they didn't know if they wanted this movie to be an adult comedy or relate to tweens. Moving on, Zoey then lies yet again, really digging herself a hole here. She says her boyfriend even has a self-driving car.
It drives itself.
I do not know why she felt the need to do this. There was absolutely no reason to get the car involved in the lie. Quinn then finds out about Zoey's boyfriend, and this really confuses me. Remember like one day ago when Zoey was telling Quinn about that dude who proposed to her? Well, apparently she has a whole new boyfriend in that tiny time frame. You understand how that doesn't really make sense? Yet Quinn doesn't question this at all? Kind of another nitpick, I know, but it was enough for me to notice. Quinn also asks Zoey to go pick up the wedding rings, and she agrees. Zoey then comes up with a scheme to attend Quinn's wedding with a fake boyfriend while working on the side in secret. She borrows the self-driving car from work and looks online for a fake boyfriend. We then get introduced to the best actor in the movie. This is Todd. He can actually act. Ironically, he plays an actor in the movie also. The reason I bring this up is that a lot of the acting in this movie is, let's just say, average.
Your maid of honor has arrived!
All of the returning cast have the same acting ability that they had when they were younger.
Okay, Logan. Tell you what, I'll round up my best 5 girls, and you round up your best 5 guys, and we'll see who's better at basketball.
I mean, that's fine for a Nickelodeon show. Most kid actors on those shows are subpar. However, this becomes very obvious when someone who could actually act comes in, and compared to the rest of the cast, it's hard not to notice the difference.
I situated myself on the couch like a gentleman.
And didn't think to change.
Zoey, I'm creating a character, okay? I need you to trust the work.
Anyway, Todd agrees to be Zoey's fake boyfriend as long as she tries to get him on the reality show she works for, Love Fully Charged. Zoey and Todd then drive towards the wedding, and we get these lines about how Zoey is aware that the car is super unsafe and dangerous.
The car drives itself, and it performed very well during the safety testing phase.
ran over 6 crash dummies.
Why was she so keen on involving the car in with her lie? You heard the guy. Apparently it ran over 6 crash dummies. Does she have a death wish or something? Whatever. Zoey then attempts to turn off the FaceTime.
It's the red button, Zoe. Big red button.
What the hell is this? Who doesn't know that the red button is the hang-up button? Especially those who are like 30 and grew up with technology. Todd then begins to practice the boyfriend character he will be playing, and his fake name is Hugo. Meanwhile, Logan and Quinn are discussing the wedding arrangements when a life-size cake gets dropped off. And then we get another introduction of an old character. It's Michael, and apparently he needs glasses because he attempts to hug the wedding cake, confusing it for the real Logan and Quinn. Seriously? Show any 3-year-old a picture of a cake and the real Logan and Quinn and see if they can determine which one is real. I assure you they can. Also another example of bad humour. Anyway, Michael is going to be marrying the couple. Zoey and her fake boyfriend Hugo then arrive and the car nearly kills everyone. Then we get this really strange entrance scene from Zoey. Alright, whose idea was it to put that in the movie? Because I'm not happy with it. Zoey introduces Hugo to her friends and the wedding party begins.
Oh, look, I'm so glad you wore makeup.
Bubby.
Oh.
That's a cake.
Another joke with the cake, because it was so funny the first time. Quinn addresses her concerns to Zoey about the size of the wedding. At long last, Chase, another former cast member, is introduced. We get a throwback to the first time Zoey and Chase met, as he clumsily banged into a pole while looking at Zoey, just like when he fell off his bike doing the same thing. Chase then introduces his girlfriend to Zoey, and Zoey introduces Hugo to Chase, who is clearly jealous.
Strong grip and jawline. Thank you.
Then Zoey gets an urgent text message and has to sneak into work. Turns out Jordan B has dyed his hair orange because he found a grey hair. So Zoey's boss isn't happy about this. Zoey tells Jordan B to call her if he needs anything. Meanwhile, Hugo is putting on a great performance for the wedding guests, using his charm to win them over. We see Mark, Stacy's husband, for the first time. These two are investigating a serial killer known as the Malibu Murderer, as Stacy runs a murder podcast. This comes up again later, but it's not so important for now. That night, Zoey is already getting harassed by Jordan B.
No, a neck tattoo will not fix what you did to your hair.
Zoey then finds Quinn in the bathtub, still upset about the wedding being too much. Zoey suggests the gang head out for some karaoke to get her mind off things. And this scene, for the most part, is pretty decent. You'll find that when the movie isn't trying to juggle so many unnecessary plot points and just lets these characters breathe and interact with each other, the movie is great. Now remember at the start of the review how I said I had a problem with the whole reality show side plot? This is exactly why. This movie is so focused on the wrong elements, it forgets to give us what any great reunion movie should have. Characters interacting and bouncing off one another. They waste so much of the movie's runtime with the silly love fully charged bullcrap that could have been used for more scenes like this one. Honestly, I can understand them wanting to give Zoey a fake boyfriend for some drama, but why do they find the need to also include the reality show? Anyway, let's continue with the scene. We find out that PCA closed down in 2009 and Zoey's grade was the last to attend. Then Hugo calls out Chase for a little sing-off. And this scene is really silly, but it's pretty entertaining. I like it. This ends with Chase accusing Hugo of trying to make him jealous, and Chase even charges at him. Hugo picks him up and then drops him on his face. The next morning, Logan wakes up everyone for the wedding rehearsal. Zoey wakes up to a barrage of texts from Jordan B. Zoey asks Hugo to look after Jordan B for her so she can attend the wedding rehearsal. Hugo reluctantly agrees. At the wedding rehearsal, Michael has unfortunately lost his voice from rapping too hard last night. So Stacy steps up and fills in for him. Chase is also pissed at Zoey because he thinks her boyfriend dropped him on purpose. See how he is acting like a high schooler here?
Zoey, he's very strong. His muscles are huge. He definitely could have helped me.
To take a bath, what difference does it make?
I love that all of the characters are the exact same as they were in Zoey 101. Isn't the whole point of a reunion special meant to show character development and what our beloved characters have been through? Take American Pie The Reunion for example. Jim Levenstein starts off as an awkward and sexually inexperienced teenager, but by the reunion, he has become a more mature person.
Dad, you've always been there to give me advice. But if there's anything that you want to talk about, I'm here for you.
Heck, even Stifler showed significant growth. He was wild and obnoxious to begin with, but he learns to value friendship and show a more caring side. Yet in Zoey 102, Chase is still goofy, Quinn is still a dork, Logan is still short-tempered. These characters might as well still be in high school. We continue to some kind of dinner party, and we get a conversation between Stacy and her husband Mark. Mark suggests that the Malibu murderer might be at the wedding, however Stacy shuts him down. Quinn asks Zoey where Hugo is, and she lies, saying he is at work, when she knows in reality he is babysitting Jordan B. But Zoey loves to lie. You know what? I take back what I said. I think Zoey's character isn't the same as she was in high school. She's actually more immature here. Zoey then gives a speech, only to see Hugo and Jordan B struggling in the background. She fakes a wine spill and goes to check on them. It turns out Jordan B hit his head on a children's roller coaster, and now he can't remember the last 6 months of his life. But this apparently isn't a big deal, kinda makes me think why they even put it in the movie to begin with. She legitimately just says she can still tell him what to say during the final, so giving this character memory loss was pointless. Zoey also remembers that she was meant to pick up the rings for Quinn and Logan, so she heads off urgently the next morning to get them. The work colleague who gave Zoey a lift home from the start of the movie tells her she needs to get the car back for the show's final, and Zoey insists she will have the car back in time. And then we get this right. This is probably the worst writing in the entire movie. The writers obviously wanted a reason to have Zoey and Chase to spend more time together. So how do they do that? They have Zoey accidentally open the side door and hit Chase in the face as he's jogging past. He then decides to sit in the car because reasons, and the door conveniently closes behind him, locking him inside. Zoey doesn't know how to open the door, and Chase gets stuck on the drive to pick up the rings. Yeah, that was a real scene that isn't the fakest thing that has ever happened or anything. They really couldn't think of a better way to get Chase and Zoey to talk, so they had to resort to a ridiculous situation to force them together. Back at the wedding, Quinn, Stacy, and the other bridesmaids are looking for Zoey. Zoey left a note for Hugo to cover for her again, and that's exactly what he does. Zoey and Chase both act immature as they argue in the car, deciding not to speak with one another.
I think it's best if we don't speak.
They arrive at the jewelry store and encounter two kids. These are Jamie Lee Spears, who plays Zoey's real kids by the way, so yeah. The workers at the store mistake Zoey and Chase for Logan and Quinn, and despite their attempts to explain, the workers force VIP treatment on them. Zoey and Chase are forced to reminisce about the first time they met and even kiss, which seems very morally questionable considering both of them think the others are in relationships. Anyway, they grab the rings and they run away goofily. Back at the bridal party, Hugo accidentally reveals something about his real identity.
Where did you grow up again?
Burbank. Brisbane.
And Stacy begins to suspect that something is off. During the ride back to the wedding, Zoey and Chase have a deep and meaningful conversation. Zoey explains why she ditched Chase in Hawaii, and they share another kiss, still not knowing the truth about each other's relationships, so they might as well be straight up cheating here. They just keep on making Zoey more and more unlikable, and Chase, you used to be my favourite character. What have they done to you? Unfortunately, the car goes flat before they make it back, since Zoey forgot to charge it. They decide to make a run for it as the wedding is about to begin. Zoey's colleague calls her asking where the car is, and she tells the truth for a change and lets him know that it's flat on the side of the road. Zoey, however, has a plan. If Jordan B chooses the girl instead of the car, it will not need to be shown in the final, and she won't get in trouble. All that Zoey has to do is instruct Jordan B during the wedding, something much easier said than done. Zoey and Chase make it to the wedding just in time, and the ceremony begins. Simultaneously, Love Fully Charged begins as well. Then we get the rudest thing in the entire movie. Worse than lying, maybe even worse than cheating. Zoey watches the reality show during the wedding. Look at this, how self-centered is she? I understand she needs to feed lines to Jordan B, but did she really think no one would notice? Well, it goes about as bad as you'd expect. Zoey ends up feeding all the wrong lines to Jordan B and ruins the show.
Am I hearing you correctly? You're choosing the car?
Yes, sorry, of course.
Open the garage, I guess.
Where's the car?
Stacy and Mark also accuse Hugo of being the Malibu murderer.
This man is the Malibu murderer!
Who denies this claim but comes forward to everyone about being an actor. Yes, there's a lot going on in this scene, so Quinn calls out Zoey for watching Love Fully Charged, and Zoey finally comes clean also. Quinn is rightfully upset and even uses this opportunity to tell Logan how much she didn't enjoy the over-extravagant wedding. Pretty much everything ends up in disaster, and Quinn calls off the wedding. Zoey thanks no longer Hugo but Todd again for all his help, but because she screwed up the final of the reality show, she isn't able to get him a job. Todd says it's all good and they go their separate ways. Zoey's boss also tells her never to step foot in the studio again, so karma is really starting to bite Zoey on the ass. We then cut to Chase and Zoey on the beach, and it turns out Chase and his girlfriend broke up 2 weeks ago. She only agreed to come to the wedding with him so he wouldn't have to go alone. So it turns out none of them were actually cheating in the end, but they both thought they were cheating, and that's what's important. Also, we get this weird shot of Chase and his ex-girlfriend that looks like they are arguing. I'm not sure why they would be arguing considering they were already broken up when Chase kissed Zoey, but whatever. Zoey and Chase then get on the subject of PCA, and she comes up with the idea to fix everything. Her plan is to help Logan put on a surprise ceremony for Quinn at the old PCA campus so they can have a more romantic and small wedding. I don't have that much to say about this scene. It's not bad. Dare I say, it's actually pretty good? Considering the movie up until this point, it's nice to have a genuinely sweet moment. Anyway, Zoey also apologizes to Quinn, rightfully so, and then Zoey's boss calls. It turns out the Love Fully Charged final was so popular because of how much of a train wreck it was. Zoey gets a promotion and even gets Todd on the show, so that all ends nicely for her. But it's not quite over yet. We get one more moment between Chase and Zoey. And what is this? Chase didn't run into the pole for a change? Actual character development? I really wish this movie didn't wait until the last 5 minutes to start being decent, but better late than never, I suppose. They both confess their love for one another, blah blah blah, and we end the movie with a montage, which is a sneak peek of what I wanted this whole movie to be. The characters we know and love enjoying each other's company and having fun. So much time was wasted in this movie, it almost turns these closing celebration moments into a bittersweet ending. And then, at the end of the movie, we get this sneaky little twist. Stacy apologizes again to Todd for accusing him of being a murderer. And don, it turns out she was right and he was the Malibu murderer all along. Get the fudge out of here. Zoey 102 proved to be a colossal disappointment, tarnishing the fond memories we had of Zoey 101. The movie was a jumbled mess of unnecessary plot lines, forced humour, and underdeveloped characters. It felt like a desperate attempt to cash in on the nostalgia of fans, but instead it left us feeling unsatisfied and betrayed. The reality show subplot was an utter waste of time, stealing precious moments that could have been spent on meaningful interactions between the original cast. Instead, we were bombarded with juvenile humour and cheap attempts at comedy that fell flat. The movie really struggled to find its identity, trying to cater to both adults and tween audiences, but failing to please either. This movie should never have existed. It robbed fans of the sweet ending they cherished from the original show and replaced it with a bitter aftertaste. Zoey 102 will go down in history as a failed attempt at capitalizing on nostalgia, leaving a sour impression on a once beloved series and its devoted audience. And that's just about it. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to you for sticking with me throughout this review. If you've made it this far, you are a true legend. I truly hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Please consider leaving a like, comment below, and subscribe to my channel, as I'll be creating many more videos like this one. As always, remember to stay critical, and that's the end of the show.